Alright, so in this lesson we're going to teach you to find the area of a right triangle by composing a rectangle. So to do that, we're going to start out in our left view. So let's click over here in the left view. Hold down the Alt key on your keyboard and press W, and it should bring up the grid here, and we're going to position the grid so that we can kind of see the dividing lines here, the black lines. Alright, and this is a good view here. So we're going to actually create a triangle from what's known as a spline. So we're going to click on the Create tab and then click Shapes. And under Shapes, you have a selection of objects here, and we're going to select Splines, and we're going to click on Line. So we're going to start out here in the middle of our grid. Click once, and notice now it allows you to draw a line. Hold down the Shift key, and you'll see that the line becomes straight, and this allows you to draw a perfectly straight line. And we're going to start with a triangle that is 7 units. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we'll stop it here and click. Release the Shift key, and we're now going to draw a diagonal line that extends out 5 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to come to the corner here and click. Hold down the Shift key again to draw a straight line back to the first line we drew, first spline that we drew. And when you click, it should ask you, do you want to close the spline? Yes, because this is what allows us to create the actual right triangle. And why is it a right triangle? Because here where the height and the base connect, it is 90 degrees. Now let's take a look at this spline, or this right triangle, in 3D. So if we hold down the Alt key and press the letter W, it gives us back our 4 views. And we want to take a look over here at the perspective view. And if we click in the perspective view, let's first press the Escape key, which allows us to come out of the spline creation tool. And if we click over here in the perspective view, it allows us to see the spline. And as you can see, it's basically 2D. It's a line. So we want to turn this into a 3-dimensional object. And the way we can do that is, let's click over here in the right here on the spline. Okay, and we're going to right click. We click once to select it, then we're going to right click to pull up our context menu here. We're going to come down and select Convert to Editable Poly. So this transforms our 2D spline into a shaded polygon. And if we come over here under the Selection Rollout and select Poly, we get a set of tools here, and the one we want to pay attention to is Extrude. Now let's click on this side of the right triangle, and notice it turns red. And if we hold down the left mouse button and drag to the right, you'll notice that our right triangle begins to extrude to the left, and that's what we want. Okay, so let's extrude it out a little bit, not too far, about right there is good. And now you can see that our spline has now become a 3-dimensional object. Pretty cool. Alright, so now let's turn off the polygon selection under the rollout, and now we have a right triangle that is a 3-dimensional object. Now what we want to do, we know that it is 7 units by 5 units, okay, but what we really want to find out is what is the area of this particular right triangle. And we're going to do that by turning it into a rectangle. And we can do that. Let's first go back to the left view. So let's click over here in the left view, hold down the Alt key, press W, and now what we're going to do is we're going to basically duplicate this right triangle and turn it into a rectangle. And we're going to do that by first clicking on the angle snap toggle, make sure it's highlighted in blue, and then click the select and rotate tool. Now once we do that and we click on the right triangle, we're going to get a rotation gizmo which is going to allow us to rotate the right triangle. But before we do that, hold down your shift key on your keyboard, and then on the axis here, let's go ahead and hold down the left mouse button and rotate forward 180 degrees, and you can see it changing up at the top: 155, 160, 165, 170, 180. And then release both the shift key and the left mouse button, and it's going to show the clone options dialog box. Simply click OK because we do want to make a copy of this object. And now we have made a duplicate of our initial right triangle. So now let's move it. So come up here, click on the select and move tool. We now get our directional arrows, and now we can actually move the right triangle into place. And just so that we can show the difference or see the difference between the two, let's change the color. I'm going to change this to blue, one of my favorite colors. And now you can see that we have two right triangles. So now let's solve our problem. What is the area of one of the right triangles? So to do that, we could simply select, let's make both of the right triangles invisible. Alright, so we're selecting the blue right triangle. If you hold down Alt and hit the letter X, you'll see that it becomes see-through. And now let's click on the pink one, Alt X, and now we can actually see through both right triangles. And if I zoom in here a little bit and then pan down, I can now count the number of boxes inside of the right triangle, which I know to be 35. Okay, I got 7 this way, I've got 5 this way. So now all I have to do is divide 35 by 2. I'm going to use my trusty calculator here. Oops. And we can see that the answer is 17.5 or 17 and a half. So if I come back and I hit Alt X on the blue triangle, I know that the area of this triangle is 17 and a half. And that is how you find the area of a right triangle. It's a really cool way to do it is by creating a duplicate right triangle and sort of bringing them together to create a rectangle. Once you find the area of the rectangle, divide it by 2. And now let's take a look at our objects in 3D. So let's go ahead and hit Alt X here, and now let's hit Alt W, press Alt and W, and now we're back to all 4 views, and I can now come over here in my perspective view and I can see the 3-dimensional object of my rectangle, And if I want to split them up, I can just move this guy over here, and now I can see that I have two right triangles that make up my rectangle.